I really wanted to enjoy this game more, but unfortunately, there's solid gameplay here, but the controls become way too complicated. There's so many different upgrades that you can buy with EP, which is...
Evolution points?
Yes, evolutionary points, and you can upgrade your abilities to jump higher, run faster, air dash, glide farther, bring out new arm abilities, and stuff like that, but sometimes the button combos become ridiculous. The one in particular, I can't remember the ability's name, but you have to press the X and B buttons at the same time. Now, if you're, like, flying around the city and moving really fast...
Hand.
Yeah, like, you gotta, like, sort of morph your thumb sideways and do this at the exact same time, otherwise it's not gonna work. It's almost impossible to do, and that was a very expensive move to pick up. That really started to piss me off. There's, like, frustratingly difficult boss and enemy battles. Hunters become, like, more of a pain in the ass than fun to kill. Some missions have the odds stacked heavily against you, and you end up dying often. I've died almost 40 times now, and I'm only 10 and a half hours into it. There's a huge lack of finesse in the controls. Trying to, like, go into a little cubby part of, like, a building is ridiculously hard because you're always moving so fast. It becomes really difficult to stick landings and get into tiny areas on buildings. But the good part about the game is it's a lot of fun to street surf and climb buildings.
And with any free roam game, you're going to have more fun just dicking around than actually playing the story. Yeah. A lot of times it seems like the story's just there to actually sell the game. And then they're really just, like, the story's there just to actually put something into the game while they're selling the game solely on the fact that you can run around, do whatever you want, kill whoever you want.
This one, the story's really solid, though. And the thing is, like, the lead designer from Radical had said that they had created the most powerful video game character ever, and I definitely believe that. Like, with the stuff that you can do with this guy, it's unreal. Shape-shifting abilities and how, like, basically destructive you are in the entire environment. The only thing is, noticing environmental damage is a little bit lack. But then again, buildings repeat often. There's a hell of a lot of pop-in. There are these little orbs that you can see, kind of like in Crackdown, where you can go and get more EP from locationary bonuses, hint bonuses, and then there's another one that I can't remember. But you almost have to be on top of these things for you to see them. So just like, running around the city, you're not going to see them from a distance. You got to be, like, really close. Yeah. And that becomes a pain in the ass because by the time you see them, you're like, oh shit, I got to turn around, and you're usually in some sort of other movement, or it becomes really frustrating. And I'm frustrated playing this game, although I still like it. It's a really good game. It's just, there's so many things wrong about it that are going to keep the average gamer away from it for sure.
Graphics suck.
The graphics are really bad.
Especially this late in the Xbox's life. Like, I would let this slide if it was a launch title. But even then, launch titles still had better graphics than this game does. It's really sad to see when developers, and it doesn't matter what system, I'm not saying this because it's an Xbox game, it doesn't matter what system, if they're pushing, this, like, storyline, great game. Graphically, this is piss.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I think it might have something to do with all the stuff going on at the same time, but it's like sort of a weird comic booky kind of art style that's like a pseudo-real. But the cutscenes are terrible. The in-game cutscenes are really bad. There's a lot of times where it'll zoom in on a strike helicopter coming at you, but the helicopter will move in the way it's coded to do, and it'll go behind a bridge or something, so you'll just end up looking at a bridge, or you'll end up looking at a building or the ground, and it's like, what the hell is the point of this if I'm literally not looking at what you want me to look at? And the real cutscenes, the only one I can really think of that's a legitimate cutscene is where Alex Mercer is talking to one of these guys right after the first part of the game, 18 days after the infection, and that's kind of a cutscene, but it's just a lot of fire and smoke.
Yep.
It's pretty bland. I don't know what to say about it.
The graphics are a huge letdown.
It's a pretty big letdown. The graphics in InFamous, infinitely better, but we'll talk about that later. But like, there's a lot of good side missions. Gliding is really fun. Basically, it gives you like a little bit of a target, and the closer you get to the center, the more points you get. That's really fun. Combat is fun when taking on groups of weaker enemies. The whip fist decapitation thing where you spin around is awesome because you can cut dudes' lower halves off, and they'll just be sitting there, like, moving their arms, looking at where their legs used to be, and that's really fun. this game is a good try. Or like Radical Entertainment, they definitely needed to put a lot of polish on this game, and they didn't. I think it was rushed a little bit, and they probably should have
held on to it for a little bit longer, try and get more out of it. Like,
it needed some polish.
Everything Jeff said is it's good and straight to the point about the game. The biggest letdown, though, is just the graphics.
Yeah. Well, for you, I mean, you haven't played much into it. It gets really, really frustrating later on, and it just really pisses you off. Maybe it's just because I can't play this game as well as other people can. It might be just me, but I think it's really frustrating, and it's kind of a pain in the ass, and the graphics are a huge letdown. But I'd say give it a rent. It's definitely worth that, because the fun you'll have just dicking around in a city more than makes up for the $10 you're going to spend. But yeah, and now on to InFamous. I don't have the game case for this because I rented it. I didn't want to buy it because I was hoping that this game would be better, and I was wrong. InFamous is Prototype's main contender. They're sort of vying for the same free-roaming, superhuman ability market. Basically, a huge bomb goes off, and you wake up with these like super electrical powers. The good about this game, the story is awesome. It's well written, and the voice acting is really good. Gameplay-wise, surfing power lines and using your thrusters is really fun. Using your shock powers is really fun too. Throwing shock grenades, they're sort of like these little impulse charges that stick to people and blow up, and it's super fun, just like whipping these little electrical grenades all around all over the place. Reminds me a lot of the light and dark force powers that you can get in like any Star Wars game, because like I played the bad character because, well, first of all, he uses like red electricity, and it looks so badass, and there's not a bit of slowdown. Like, I was shooting cars and throwing grenades at people, and cars were flipping up and they were on fire, and I was like shocking people and shocking enemies, and like explosions everywhere, and I didn't see one hiccup in the frame rate. It's like running at a true 60 frames a second the entire time. It's definitely one of the prettiest looking games on the PS3, and I don't think it could run this well on the 360.
Probably not.
The bad, some of the enemies are a real pain in the ass. I really hate the guys that come screaming and running at you and then blow up, because a lot of the times you, unless you have a surround sound system, you can't really tell where they're coming from. You got to really pay attention to your mini-map where the red dots are coming from, because these guys will fuck your shit up real quick. Like, they'll just run into you, explode, and then you're basically dead.
Nice.
The good part about like dying, though, you can sort of go up to any traffic light or power lines or receiver box and just hold down the L2 button, I think it is, and you sort of sap the power from that and get your energy back. Enemies repeat a lot. They get really boring. Fighting I think they're called Wraiths. I haven't played the game in a while because I've been playing Prototype. They're fun at the beginning, but they get really boring after a while because it's like the same enemy over and over and over again. Much like this, they repeat a lot of the enemies. This game is much better made than Prototype. If you have a PS3, because this is also on PS3, get InFamous and buy it twice over before you even look at that game. But I have to stress that you cannot judge this game based on the demo. The first level of the demo, where you have to protect that train, is terrible. Basically, you have to like get on the front of this train and ride it down the tracks, and there's all these rays shooting at you, and you have to clear cars out of the way with this like push move that's basically a force push. And it's a stupid level. It's basically any like protect the X level in any video game, but it's terrible.
The obligatory save the
whales, save the princess. It's really terrible. I don't know why they put that first. They should have just stayed with the free roaming, because after you beat that, you do get to free roam around the city and do whatever you want, and that's really the fun part about this game. So don't judge the game based on the demo alone, because the demo does not do this thing justice, and it's definitely one of the worst demos on the PSN I've seen in a long time. But buy it over Prototype 1,000 times over, because it's so much better in almost every way. You can't just run up walls, though, in that game, which kind of sucks. But what are you going to do? Prototype, InFamous, awesome. Awesome game. You should get a PS3.
No, I shouldn't.
Yeah, you should.
No, because I don't have any exclusives. Anyway, that's a whole other episode and argument.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so basically that was all for this week. We're going to do our E3, or going to try and do our E3 special wrap-up right now. Audio processing for the bonus stage is done by Lipnowski.com. You can check him out there. And the intro music, the beautiful intro music you heard on the front of the show, was provided by Starship Amazing, and you can check them out at starshipamazing.com. But that's all for this week. We're your hosts. I'm Joe Ford.
I'm Tom Higgins.
We'll see you later.